This video is really about monetization, discussing money in games, mobile games, mentalities. A lot of people see things like this. There ends up being a bunch of arguing, people saying that's right or wrong and different. So I'm gonna do a little bit of soapboxing here. I'm gonna reference an article, I'm gonna reference a video. We're gonna look at both of those. Shout out to ItsGuestGaming over at Snap.fan. Shout out to my guy Mobile Gamer. We're gonna cover one of his videos. I'm gonna give a lot of opinions here. I hope that you stay through the end on this. I'd love to hear your opinions on this, and I hope at the end of this that we can all sort of provide opinions to each other, also reduce the amount of conflict that we potentially have with each other in sharing, not just in this game, but honestly in the world in general. There's just too much like polarizing opinions and people staying in their silos. Anyway, that's a whole nother Oprah. I'm not trying to fix any of that, but I do want to dive into this because I think it's a crazy hot topic right now, and I think this is a big catalyst for it. After editing this video, it was 38 minutes long, so I decided to cut it into two parts. One's going to come out on Saturday, August 26th, which is the one you're watching right now. Part 2 is going to be scheduled to come out on Sunday, the 27th at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Cover a similar topic, but 2 articles, and I culminate everything in part 2. So as I mentioned, I'm going to go over an article here from ItsGuestGaming over at Snap.fan, and I'm also going to look at a video that Mobile Gamer put together. If you're not familiar with him, I know him from my days over at Marvel Strike Force, Future Revolution. I've known him for a long time. He's a really good guy, really smart guy, does a lot of top end stuff. My intent is not to read any of these. I want to try to pull in certain points, share with you what I think. Again, all right, so high level, we're talking monetization in game. We're talking about offers, how expensive they are, how cheap are they, should they be cheaper, etc. Some of the things that I want to lead off in is that there are metrics that are out there. There are companies that legit study these things and provide and sell them to companies like Second Dinner. I've personally played in some heavily predatory games where the offers, they're insanely expensive. People can spend thousands of dollars per month just to try to stay at that top tier. I played a game, Marvel Future Revolution, where you could spend tons of money in game, you could spend mediocre dollars in game, but unless you spent thousands, you would never, no matter how good you were, be able to compete with those people spending massive amounts of money. There's certainly other games by companies that are leaning into that predatory aspects where it's just heavily monetized. It really does all the gotcha mechanics. Look, my personal opinion is I think, and try not to get triggered or leave right after this because I've got more to say, but I think Second Dinner, as far as especially mobile games go, really does a good job at balancing that. So some of the things I want to focus about are cash bundles healthy for WolverSNAP article from ItsGuestGaming. First off, like I said, go read this, okay? I'm shooting this video early. I'm going to publish it later because I'm going to be traveling, working on some farm stuff. There might be some changes in what everything says on the next few days, but I will link this article below. I like how Guest says this topic is becoming both negative and aggressive. I wonder if we can sort of tone that down a little bit. I know that's hard. It's the internet, etc. I'm not telling anybody to do anything. You do you. But it would be nice to have a more harmonious discussion. This video is similar to the purpose of what his article is he says, this is an article to hopefully guide some of the Marvel Snap player base into a deeper understanding of some of the choices that need to be made by all game companies, not just Second Dinner. I talk about this a lot in my videos. I come off as a shill. I come off as a player, only type person. It's tough. I just try to give my opinions, and look, it's polarizing. Some people are going to say one thing or the other, but ultimately at the end of the day, this is sort of the thing that I always try to do. I try to look at every avenue and try to get people to think from someone else's perspective. One of the things that I like that Guest does is he lists all of these different offers in here that have been, what does it say, for July and August. And you can see he lists a whole bunch of these. We're obviously not going to go on them, but the point that he makes here, and really sum up, 90% of the cash bundles over these 60 days are cheaper than $25. Look, that's data, and that is a really good thing for a game for those free-to-play, cheap-to-play spenders. You do not see stuff like that very often in mobile-type games. So I have to give credit to Second Dinner for that. I would like if other people would also recognize that that's a good thing. I think it's fantastic. It leans into giving things for those cheaper spenders in game. Then we get Death Becomes Her. We mentioned that. I like the avenue that Guest goes here talking about players being negatively affected by sticker shop. I think a big part of that is because of this. So because we are getting these cheaper offers so often. When something like this pops off, it's like, what is going on? Oh my God, why is this happening? And I could say in some of the other games that I played, like this is literally nothing compared to that. So like a $75 offer coming is just sort of like, oh yeah, okay, there's another $100 offer. That's the weekly offer this week. All right, there's another $100 offer. Or I could go spend $300 reoccurringly to help myself get ahead of somebody else. And he talks about these 10% of the bundle prices, the 10% that aren't under $25, stand out because they are so much more expensive. One aspect he talks about in this paragraph here is it's critical to analyze all of these sort of metrics. And look, only Second Dinner and these other second back-end agencies are the ones who are able to analyze who's buying what. We're gonna get into this in Mobile Gamer's video a little bit about how there's programs out there, but they analyze it. They look and see what people do. How likely are people to spend? How likely are people to stick around if they spend or don't spend? Why do you think there's welcome bundles in almost every game that costs $1, $2, $3? Because once you spend, you are more likely to stick around. That is just the case with any of these games. And the more likely you are to stick around, the more likely you're to spend more, which is what all of these things want. It would be what you'd want if you had a game company that you ran. You've got IPs to pay, you've got staff to pay, you've got all sorts of things that you need to pay, and you need to make money even in these free-to-play systems. Please insert your Wolverthor's shill comments below. He talks about how companies really want to find more appealing products so that you're more incentivized to want to buy and spend in-game as opposed to farming and hoarding. Now, look, I'm somebody who's crazy efficient, and I want to try to use things as the best as my ability. And that's something that I think I share with the players so that people who can't spend as much, maybe they start thinking, well, you know what, I could do this and sort of compete here. And again, having seen a lot of other games, I think Marvel Snap does that really well, where people, generally speaking, can still compete at top tier ends. Talks about how hoarding hurts the overall economy, similar to how if you did that in with your bank, you didn't go spend, it would hurt the general economy. And this was a really good point and analysis that I had not thought about before. And he's right. It's like, if you just don't go spend anything out in the public, it hurts the economy. It's almost like a socialist system, right? Where if you don't spend anything, it hurts everybody. If you spend stuff, it helps everybody. Similar here, where if we can all find ways to spend a little bit, or if whales and krakens are encouraged to spend a lot of it, it helps everybody. And that's what we want. And that's diving back to these different variety of costs in game. We want these. We want small offers. We want big offers. That's 1,000% what we want in game. If there is a $75 offer in here that attracts a Kraken to buy it, but not everyone else can buy it, good. And that might trigger you, but that's what we want because it will help us get more microtransactions later. If we spend on microtransactions, it will help create more microtransactions and potentially cheaper offers later. So if you are spending in this game, and this is something I say in every one of my offer reviews, you have a budget. Stick to that budget. Do not overspend. This is a hobby. Whatever your hobby is, spend that per month. Some people have, say you go to a bar. That's what your weekend, you spend hundreds of dollars at the bar weekend. You're into bikes and you like to go bike riding. You're into hunting, you like to go hunting. You're into camping, fishing, whatever it might be. This is similar. This is a hobby that you do for fun. You should have a monthly budget for whatever that hobby is. I'm not going to judge you for whatever your hobbies are and however you spend your money. That's up to you. Assuming you're not hurting somebody, then I would judge you and tell you that's wrong. But in this case, we're talking about gaming, social, camping, fun sort of things. So hoarding is something that they don't want. And when we do it, it hurts. Now, I'm not going to get into the fact that actually hoarding spotlights is actually what we should be doing right now. The regular reserves are so bad that we're not using them. I hope that this gives an indication to Second Dinner that whatever they're doing isn't working, because at the end of the day, we as a player base are going to react to whatever the developers give us. And we as a mass is going to show how things should be. We as a mass can control how things are. If we together said, these offers aren't good enough, we're not buying them, and we don't even need to do it together. It just naturally happens. Then games adjust. That's just how it works. You see it with a whole bunch of other games where things are just falling apart, people aren't playing. Guess what? Things get fixed like that. It is insane. This is a part I really like. How you choose to use your resources is entirely within your control and discretion, with or without the influence of public opinion. Wholeheartedly agree. All the YouTube videos I do, it is not to tell you what to do. My hope is to help guide you in a way to help better make a decision for yourself. I try to provide some information. I tend to try to look at things different ways. So that way, however it applies to you specifically, we can connect with, and it might help you. People ask me all the time, what should I do with this? I will never directly necessarily answer that because it's like everybody's situation's different. I'll say, well, are you a spender or this? This might be what I do. And that's what you have to decide. I really like this point that he brought up here. He also talks about the game companies look at these spending patterns and find the most appealing way to make a consumer want to spend their resources consistently. I agree. And that's the flip end of this. So whatever we do and react, they react, and vice versa. We play back on each other. And this is just the way it is in any sort of market economy, etc. Whatever companies do, players/buyers will adjust and do what they think is best for them. Whatever percentage of most people will do, that company reacts to. One thing that Mobile says in his video, and I'll probably say it multiple times, if the company can make more money by reducing the cost of offers or having the cheapest offers in game, I guarantee you they would do it. I guarantee it. But the metrics that are out there, the studies that are out there, the algorithms, the AI that studies millions and millions of people and their spending habits and how they do it will tell them how to do it. Meaning AI systems, those algorithms, etc., that study our spending patterns are telling these companies people will not spend more money by making things really cheap. It's just not what happens. Unless society changes the way it does it, that is the only way that the algorithm, the companies would change in general. The companies will do whatever it is to make the most amount of money. Second Dinner is one of those companies that I like to see balancing that, where they've got the expensive offers and the microtransactions. I'm very curious to see how it shakes out. I have to bring up this sentence because I think it's amazing. When looking at the style of the bundle that is out most regularly and recently in the Marvel Snap, which is this Death Becomes Her, you can see a pretty clear progressive trend. Marvel Snap direct purchase consumers are just like O-Town. Why? Because they want it all or nothing at all. The evolved pattern research has most likely shown that players are more willing to spend $5 to $25 or $75 to $100. Think of it basically as an upside down bell curve. And I absolutely think he's right. And that's where Marvel Snap is smart. They're giving a lot of the chunk of the population small transactions. They're giving those Krakens, which provide a big percentage of the revenue/profits for games, their options. And we're going to go into that in a second because there are articles out there showing where most of the money comes from in a lot of these games. And a lot of these other games will not do what Marvel Snap is doing, where they give these $5 to $25 offers. They just don't exist. They don't make them because they're like, why are we going to make them? That's just going to not make us any more money. Now, personally, I'm kind of like, yeah, well, some money's better than no money. Like, why wouldn't you just do it? But anyway, that's a different thing. He does a good analogy here about one person's willing to spend $20 5 times versus one person spending $100. They're both equal. I totally agree with that. And then he also says, if these are the two largest markets netting profit, that's where the offer is going to be. And again, these come from the metrics. Whatever the metrics are, these companies are going to do. However we buy, these companies are going to lean into. If they find a way to make offers cheaper that will make them more money, that is what they are going to do. They're going to find ways to make the most money that they can possible, period. He has some analogy here, which I really like. And this is sort of like a sociology, psychology thing. And the long and short of this is, at least in my opinion, is look, people buy things for different reasons. People buy expensive cars. They buy cheap cars. They need to get from point A to point B. However you do it, you do it. For me personally, as long as you're not hurting somebody along the way, I'm cool with it. Go buy that expensive Benz. Go take a bus. I personally don't judge one person one way or another. Is the bus going to be slower getting there? Yeah. Okay, fine. Do you get there? Maybe. Are you going to be slower in the race? Maybe. Do some people buy the Benzes for statuses? Yes, they do. Do they want the exclusivity? Yes, they do. Do I judge them? No, not unless they're jerks to other people and like stick up their nose and say, I'm better than you. Yeah, then I'll judge them. But if they're just a person who owns a Benz or, a Tesla or whatever they're owning, good for them. Do I want it? Hell yeah, I want it. Like, I would love to buy a whole bunch of different stuff. Now, is it because I want it as a status symbol? No, I'm not really into that. Like, people make fun of me because I have the same set of clothes that I've worn for like 20 years and I just don't buy them. My wife's trying to get me to get a haircut and I'm like, no, you know what? That's just how I am. I've never been that way. I've never been into just like general status. Do I want to be liked and all this thing? Well, who doesn't? Like, yeah, does somebody want to give you a compliment? Yeah, who doesn't want a compliment? Like, sure. I mean, I'm a human being, right? But I really like how he goes over this. And I think that it really is about like, just be happy for what you've got. Yeah, you can want something and strive for something, but I'm never going to want somebody to feel bad about spending or not spending in a game. You do what's best for you. He talks about, you know, the pedestrian seeing the person in the bend. It's all about the driver's choice, and whatever their reasons to justify spending, it is. He brings up this 3 times offer. He doesn't necessarily judge whoever bought it. If they wanted to buy it, they bought it. Now, did some people hate this offer? Yes. Were people frustrated about it? Yes, they were, especially given the timing where Darkhawk didn't drop. I get it, but I'm not going to judge anybody by going ahead and do this. Now, if you play Galactus and the old Spider-Man, maybe I would judge you, but not with this. He then brings it back to Snap, and this is a part, it's becoming all too common that players are being assessed negatively for spending their money on things that they like. He talks about counts. Some people like to spend $60 on a console game as their primary source of entertainment. Others might spend joy and $300 on a date night with a loved one. Some might spend 20 grand on a dream trip to Italy. Others get gratification from a $15 specialty ice cream cone from an ice cream truck. Who are we to criticize how everyone else spends their money to make themselves happy? Again, for me personally, the only time I'd say different than that is if somebody's spending money to hurt somebody. That I'm not cool with. But if someone's just spending money to make themselves happy without hurting someone, like, okay, I don't care if you spend 20 grand, 5 grand, whatever. Like, if you're so rich, you're spending that money to make yourself happy, that's on you. Now, do I want you to, you know, join my YouTube, do my Patreon, maybe send some love my way so that I can help pay my bills? Yeah, sure. But I'm not going to be there and like, hey, why are you spending 20 grand on a trip to Italy when you should be doing something else? Like, you're happy. That's your thing. Do it. And this is the greatest summary that I think that he's got here. What holds value to you will always be different from what holds value to someone else. And this is so true. I mean, if you're either married or dating or not, or thinking about any of that, you will find that with whoever your partner is. It's just people, even if someone's got similar values to me, like, look, I love my wife, but gosh, there are times when the value, I'm like, what are you doing? Why do you think that's important? You know, and it creates conflict, and I get it, but you try to work through that, right? And I don't necessarily think like whatever she's thinking about is just stupid and whatever. I don't understand how I value things differently. In that situation, try to work together and compromise for something that works for a family. But I do not think that whatever I hold value in, because somebody else, especially in the gaming industry, holds either less or more value in, somehow makes one of us right or wrong, or better or worse. And generally, I disagree with this. Just from like a society perspective, you don't have the right, nobody has the right to value someone else's happiness. And it's just kind of like, I mean, I guess technically you have the right to do that, especially in like America where it's just like, do what you want. But I just don't think we should. I just like, look, be good to each other. I really like, he's got a good paragraph here about like the community gamer, especially in Marvel Snap. I do agree with a lot of what he says here, where it's like Marvel Snap is a great community. I think we can build on that community. We don't need to like toxify each other with it. He talks about trolls. Yes, they're everywhere. There's some people on Twitter who I'm like, why do you hate Marvel Snap, and comment on literally every single tweet? Like every single one. Like if you hate it, just go move on to something else. Like, what are you doing? But that's what they want. If that makes them happy, it's like, okay. But generally speaking, I do hope that we as a community can sort of be more positive and supporting of each other for whatever helps you in your happiness is good. And ideally, this helps Second Dinner with the low cost offers everyone can buy and the high cost offers everyone can buy. He's got a nice conclusion here talking about Second Dinner is a hospitality-based business. They thrive when we thrive and are happy, so that's going to be the way it leans. Talks about not all games the same, not how people enjoy things the same. I think this is pretty good point. It's something you definitely got to think about. I like where he says you'll see more through the eyes of Second Dinner than you did the day before. I think generally speaking, that's just a good concept for all of us to have with each other. Obviously, I always talk about Second Dinner and the free-to-play spenders. Some people like to do that. Some people don't. Also, remember that not everybody's in the same financial situation, which is why in my offer reviews, I tend to have different brackets, because just because it's the same economy doesn't mean there's the same type of spenders. The value of $5 to one might be very different to someone else. And I got into it with somebody on, maybe not into it, but I was debating on Twitter where someone's like, that's only a $10 offer. Who cares? Whatever. I'm like, yeah, but that might be a lot of money to somebody else. You can't judge them based on what it is. To you, it might be a lot. To someone else, it might not be. It just depends. And then this last one, he's really talking about having a healthy conversation for everything. I generally think just in the world and perspective needs more of this. There is too much opinion silos. There's too much, you're wrong, I don't care. This is like, let's just get back to facts. Let's get back to like, what do you see? Now, look, I hate that some people disagree on what's a fact or not, but you can still try to get some data, gather, and discuss. So that was part one, where we covered Guest Gaming's article on Snap.fan. Tomorrow, we will have the one where we go into the video from Mobile Gamer. It covers a lot of good points and some specific data sources where gaming companies get their information. It's really good. I would highly recommend maybe liking and subscribing so you can check it out. Hammer down that like button. All right, till next time, I hope you have a wonderful day.